Hello, everyone. Welcome to AgileByExample 2021 Yellow Track. My name is Mateusz. I will be your host here until the lunch. It's a little bit weird not seeing how you behave. So if you could please let me know in the chat that you actually hear me talking, it would be really awesome. I know there is some delay, so I will be patient. So don't worry. Before lunch, we'll have 3 talks here. The first one will be a little bit longer, and we'll have a short break between all the talks. After each talk, we'll have a Q&A session. So please ask the questions. This is really important in the main yellow Slack channel. I will be fishing out for the questions to ask to the speakers after the talk in this channel, main yellow. I will write it in the chat later. And actually, I encourage you to be active during the talk, so that when the Q&A comes, oh, thank you, Carolina. I saw your message now. Perfect. So I encourage you to be active in the chat during the talk, so that we can have lots of questions prepared for the guys when they finish. Okay, one last thing. Speakers really like feedback. Last year, we got so little feedback that we were a little bit ashamed when we were sending it out. Please help make this year better. You can find the feedback booth in the conference area in your room entrances, and I will be posting the feedback links also everywhere, but please go there at some point. Okay, I remembered about another last thing. Each talk will have actually has its own Slack channel, so that the discussion can continue there. Go to this individual Slack channels when you want to talk to speakers after the talk. If you have any questions, post them in the main yellow channel. Yes, there is one more of the last things. Sometimes when you start watching the stream and something happens and it looks like it starts from the beginning again, the solution is to refresh. So yeah, no, I see somebody is talking in the chat about it now. Okay. So this was the general announcements. Now let's move to the first talk. The first speaker is Paweł and Michał. Hello. It's wonderful to see you, to have you both here. Michał is a little bit silent. You will hear him later. I met both of them in the early days of Agile Warsaw, and we have been in good contact since then. I work directly with Paweł and almost work directly with Michał, twice actually. And both were always very committed to helping others grow. Actually, Michał is writing a book about growing leaders recently, and now they are working together in Epsilon, the company delivering world-class enterprise shiny dashboards. And they will tell you a story of talent growing program they are running there. Guys, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Mateusz. Thank you for the introduction. It's great to be here at AgileByExample this year. Welcome, everyone. Today, we want to bring you a case study from Epsilon, like Mateusz said. We both, Michał and I, are working there for nearly a year now. And what we want to talk about is an agile approach to forging talent. So what is our challenge? We're challenged with how to create an environment of intentional professional development when the team is growing twice in its size year to year. And we're talking about the tech team here mainly. Before we do a deeper dive into how we do that, what we do and why, I wanted to just give a brief introduction here and with the context of the company in which the case study is happening. Although we do hope that similar activity can happen in other companies in a similar way, adjusted to different company specifications. So first, maybe a brief introduction. Again, Michał, would you like to say a few words about yourself?
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Michał Parkoła. I'm one of the engineering managers at Epsilon, along with Paweł. And before that, as Mateusz mentioned, I've been a member of the Agile community for more than 10 years. And I've held many kinds of Agile jobs, like a product owner, Agile coach, and so on. So I've been running Scrum trainings in the beginning of my career and so on. Right now, I'm at applying all this knowledge at Epsilon.
And my name is Rzymkiewicz, and I am also an engineering manager at Epsilon. My passion lies in helping people grow to become the best versions of themselves and myself, for me personally. And I believe this is best accomplished by creating an environment, an engineering culture where people can thrive and succeed and feel safe and be safe. So the case study happens at Epsilon, which, like Mateusz said, our core business is to make world-class enterprise shiny dashboards. But also, apart from that, we do a little bit of machine learning projects with computer vision. And also part of our profit, we dedicate to Data for Good initiative, where we work either pro bono or for just to cover the costs with companies and NGOs that support good cause out there in the world, and we would like to help and essentially help them have a bigger impact. And part of what we do is also dedicated to this cause. Today, our presentation will be essentially divided into two sections in a way that I will speak about why and how Talent Forge came about, and Michał will take you through the details of the Talent Forge itself. So why Talent Forge? Like mentioned before, our company is growing at a rapid pace, and to give you an exact idea, that there are companies of different sizes. So Epsilon was 20 people last year. This year we are 40 people, and we are on the same trajectory of growth for the next year as well. So when this kind of growth happens, sometimes, or a lot of times, the things that worked before do not work anymore, or work completely different when the team doubles up, and it doubles up a couple of times. So one of our important premises here when creating Talent Forge was to make sure that the processes and the tools that we create will work both now and also hopefully be flexible enough to work in the future and be able to evolve together with the growth of the team and the company. Of course, another important goal is to keep our level of quality when companies grow. That sometimes, well, again, oftentimes is a challenge just because of the sheer speed of growth. So this is, another important aspect that we wanted to incorporate in Talent Forge to make sure that we still have that. Of course, again, we want to make sure that the team skills development can grow together with the company, and every individual team member is not lost in this transition and of the company. As part of growth, is a lot of it is onboarding new people to the company. It's an important aspect of Talent Forge that we make sure that every team member joining the company has the right set of tools, knowledge, processes, learns about the processes to essentially be up to speed to working on a project and providing value as soon as possible. And last but not least, when we joined Epsilon with Michał, there was, and there still is, 20 different artifacts that help people learn things like tech talks, documentation in our wiki, tools that we use to improve and enhance our development on projects, things like this. And these things we really felt like would benefit from organizing together and creating connections between them and making sure that they are kind of well aligned with the way that people in the company grow. Talent Forge is also to prevent some things. So of course we want to work with great people and we don't want great people to leave. We hope and we believe that we'll have the best jobs of our lives at Epsilon, and we really hope to create an environment for that for everyone else. So in order to do that, it's of course not only about learning, it is also about, well, it's a number of things, but one other major thing is the level of challenge that people get, so that it is, outside of their comfort zone, outside of our comfort zone, but not too far away, so that we can actually reach it. So one thing is setting the right challenges and the right goals at the right kind of level for each individual, but also the other thing is to help achieving that goal. And hopefully with Talent Forge, this is what we aim to achieve, is to provide that help with reaching the next progressions for the team members, for all of us to go, essentially grow ourselves in different areas while being challenged. So, what Talent Forge enables, we hope, is it allows for people to contribute and make impact, in more difficult situations, more difficult products. Through that, hopefully, these are more interesting challenges and more interesting contributions. And one really important factor that we think is invaluable is creating interactions and opportunities for interactions between people, because these interactions later translate to how people do on projects, how we deliver value, how we build our internal tools, how we communicate with each other, how effective we are in doing all this. And so one of the goals of Talent Forge as well is to make sure that we create space for these interactions between people to happen, on both early stage when someone comes in and does onboarding, or at a later stage, at any stage really of our being part of Epsilon, and to make sure that when this interaction happens, we then later can translate those interactions to actually actions when we work on specific projects or internal tools, etc. So how did we start working on Talent Forge at Epsilon? We thought about it, and we thought that there is a really good tool that has been already used for quite some time, and we decided to apply that tool, and maybe you've heard about it. So we thought that, first of all, we probably want to plan, make a really good plan of how we want to start. And so we created a Talent Forge MVP contract together with our VP of Engineering, Paweł Przytuła. And in that contract, we specified, what we expect essentially out of this initiative, calling it MVP, specifying a minimal set of deliverables that we would expect to achieve by a certain date when the MVP kind of finishes. We set ourselves a date of how much time we have to kind of make this first impact and essentially make a proof that the Talent Forge has opportunity and will succeed and can be successful really in our company and our setup. And so this has been really helpful in defining our goals and essentially what we want to achieve. And then so we could take that with Michał and start working on that. And so actually Michał will go into great detail of the implementation, organization and execution of the first artifacts of the Talent Forge, but essentially this is what we did next. And after that, I think what was very helpful, and in my experience working in different companies, this is not always a case that this happens, So I was really happy to be part of that at Epsilon, was to do a very thorough review of our work that we did with Michał based on the initial MVP contract, together with Paweł Przytuła, our VPE, who is, at the same time in the role of a sponsor for this initiative, but also our first client that we could essentially test it against, one of the first clients to see the artifacts and work with them. And so a very thorough review helped us understand how this iteration went from Paweł's perspective and what things we could improve and how and would we do the next iteration really. And I see that the next point is already out. So the act part was to take that information from Paweł and essentially learn from that and together form a new contract for the next iteration of the Talent Forge work that we're currently doing, to essentially take into consideration all of the learnings that we've had in the past and the perspectives there. And now I will take it over or give it over to Michał to give you more information, more details about what Talent Forge actually is.
Okay, thank you, Paweł. So now I will share some more. So Paweł told you about the framework, the general framework, the environment in which we developed Talent Forge. And now I wanted to share some things that I think are useful from within Talent Forge. So first of all, I wanted to say that I will highlight both the principles that we are thinking that we have in the back of our minds and the specific tools that we use to implement those principles. And it's useful to keep both in mind because, of course, you can copy and be inspired by specific practices, but it's important to know what the idea is behind those practices in order to check if it's actually appropriate to the circumstances and also just to implement it in the right way. And this also is important inside, let's say, Epsilon or inside the company that has a Talent Forge-like program, to not just invite people to join this or that activity, but to just actively talk about why we are doing this in that way, because this also helps people to get more value from the specific practices. Next slide, please. Okay, so one of the principles is that it's useful to have a North Star, like a high-level goal that is over the top of all of the practices that are part of Talent Forge, because Talent Forge is an umbrella over various activities. But what is the deciding factor? Like which activities are Talent Forge and which activities are maybe entertainment, team building, or something else? And for us, back again, if you can. So for us, this North Star metric is to help tech team members learn useful skills. So it already shows that it's for tech team members, not necessarily everyone, and learn useful skills. That means that whatever activity we have, we should have some specific skill that we have in mind for that activity or a set of skills. It has to be useful. So we should be able to answer the question, what for? So learn some skill, for example, software testing. But what for? We have to explain that. Oh, if you do software testing, then let's say we have more maintainable software and we have fewer bugs and so on. And of course, it pays to be specific in our context. What does that mean? Not to rely just on generalities. And learn means that there has to be some change in behavior that leads to better results. If there is no change in behavior, it's hard to say that learning happened. So this is a very concise statement, but it gives us a pretty powerful tool to decide which tools should be a part of Talent Forge and which should not, and how to evaluate are the tools we are using, are they effective or not, all compressed into this simple statement. So it's useful to have a statement like that when developing complex programs like Talent Forge. Okay, next slide, please. Thanks. So another related reason, so this we had this high-level learn useful skills, but this is obviously like a very abstract statement. And some people are excited just by pure learning. For example, I like to learn just for the sake of learning. but it also helps to have some more exciting goals behind that learning. So, for example, you can have a skill of tying knots on a rope, or you can have a skill of setting up a tent in the snow, for example. Those are all interesting skills, but it helps to have some vision behind it. So we are learning all those skills in order to climb high mountains. So for Talent Forge, we also try to set those exciting goals. And of course, this is context dependent and difficult because people are excited by different things. But the highlights for us are that we really want to be the #1 enterprise R Shiny company. R is a popular data science language. Shiny is a web framework to create dashboards in this language. And we want to be in this niche. We want to be the #1. Well, some would say we already are, so we need to maintain this status. But what does that mean? Well, that, for example, means that we want to publish tutorials and guides on our blog that are read by senior engineers and executives at Fortune 500 companies. This is one of the signs that we believe that show that we are close to #1. We want to develop open source packages that really advance the state of the art of R Shiny, that help other R Shiny developers create better apps. So we don't want to just build good apps ourselves. We want to help others build good apps. So, for example, we publish open source packages that can be used to build better front ends, to build more scalable backends, and so on. So that's a sample of the ambitious goals that we try to set and achieve. Contests, which I will mention later, also are a part of that. So it's this is a sample for us, but if you are preparing a program like that, also I would encourage you to think what are the exciting goals in your domain. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, another important principle that is at the heart of that ties together different activities inside Talent Forge is the habit of sharing useful things. So this is a habit that we actively encourage people that whenever they learn something, they share it immediately. And it's not obvious, like there are a lot of psychological blocks on this way, and some maybe skills blocks, how to describe things in a concise way, how to write, how to illustrate things. But there's also some psychological blocks, and we try to overcome them. But for example, people believe that, oh, I don't know enough to teach other people. I have to be an expert before I can teach people. That's not true. Sometimes it's even better to be just a few steps ahead of someone else because you still understand their beginner mindset. And if you're a super expert, you might not understand what's confusing for beginners. So we encourage people, and maybe another block is that people believe that, oh, it's boring. Like what if people are not interested in it? That's not a problem. If they're not interested in it, they will just not read it. It's fine. But if even a few people read it, that's already a benefit. So it's and also there's a big benefit that if you share things, like the best way to learn is to teach. So whenever you try to share things, it also helps you to organize and consolidate your own knowledge. So it's a really powerful principle. I think if you only take one thing from this presentation, I would like it to be this, that encourage people to just whatever they learn, share it, and just practice like what formats are best for you, and encourage people, like help them overcome the limitations that stop them from doing that, and just share. And for us, we do that internally a lot, because one way to share is not just, okay, write blog posts. But to write like a public-facing blog post, that's already a scary and difficult task for many people. So we try to create like smaller opportunities to share internally. So we share like a lot of stuff internally, and then maybe 40% of it is shared outside, and then maybe a smaller subset shared in some really concrete guides or tutorials. But we built up this volume of sharing internally such that it's easier to build towards higher level stuff. So these are things like just on the Slack channel, which is the equivalent of just talking about it in the office. On the Slack channel, we encourage people to share, and we share ourselves on a daily basis whenever we find something interesting. We also have something called Tech Weekly Status, where every week teams share what are the highlights of the week, what they got done, what they achieved, what they learned, and so on. So that's one way we share internally. Another one that is, we don't focus on it too much here because it's so basic, but if you don't have it, like definitely have it, is internal tech talks. That every week there's a slot and one person from the tech team presents some topic that they are interested in, that they are learning about, that they something they made, something they achieved, as long as it's somewhat related to technology and our jobs, then it's fair game for tech talks. And this is also a great way to encourage people to speak, to become more confident in sharing their knowledge and so on. So, and also allows other people to learn more about what is happening inside the company and what other people are learning. So this is definitely a must-have talent development tool, I would say. Another one is we also have, actually, next slide, please. This is the representation of some of the ways we are sharing. You already know Slack. We also have a blog and a YouTube channel with videos. We also have an internal instance of Stack Overflow that we share internal questions, Upsilon specific questions there, and this is pretty active as well. All this internal sharing builds up to external sharing in the form of blog posts or conferences or so on. I would like to underline that this is also, I think, very important for individuals. So of course, we encourage it as a company, and we are talking in the context of creating a company program. But if you are just, I think every ambitious professional should have a blog where they share their learning. So if you don't have one, consider starting one. Okay, next slide, please. So another related concept is to show what great looks like. Because if we just say, oh, we want to be #1 at R-Shiny, but what does that mean exactly? We have to have examples, like concrete examples that are easy to understand for people and that they can basically copy as an inspiration and as a building block in their own achievements. So people generally, the best way people learn is by copying, by modeling correct performance, and by seeing achievements and getting inspired by them. So it is also very important to create a variety of tools where people can see with their eyes or with their fingers on the keyboard doing some sort of tutorial, playing with code or something, to make the examples of this good performance visible. That includes what I already mentioned, like sharing screenshots of if we manage to create a good-looking dashboard for a client, we share the screenshot on Slack and we describe what is interesting about it. We also look at, actually, next slide, please. So we also participate in contests. Participating in contests in your area, I think, is a great way to boost learning and to create this exciting goal of winning a contest, and also allows us to create concrete examples of what great looks like. So, for example, some people from the company participate in the contest, and for example, there is an annual R-Shiny contest organized by another company in this space. And we had the pleasure of winning a prize at those contests in both last year and this year. So now that we have those, so we have examples of, oh, this is a winning dashboard. It's like worldwide contest. Of course, it's Shiny is in itself somewhat of a niche, but within this niche, this is the best that the community can create. And we can look at our submissions. We can look at other people's submissions. And this also helps that, of course, we can look at various examples of world best examples of work, but the fact that we also have a submission there and that it's also a winning submission, this shows that this is a realistic thing that people can do. It's not just some abstract you read on a blog that, oh, this is the best architecture in the world, but of course I cannot even get close to it. But this also makes it realistic that, yes, you can also enter this contest and perhaps win. Maybe not the first year, but maybe the second year. And you can talk to people that won, and you can meet other people that participate from other companies that also do great work in your area. So participating in external contests is something I would also recommend for companies looking to boost their learning programs. Okay, so next slide, please. So a part of making great visible and concrete, of course, we have to. I think it's useful to start with the end product. If you are building shiny apps, of course, it's natural to start with shiny apps. But there are, of course, a lot of many other skills and practices and beliefs that well, we all believe, or experienced people believe, that tend to lead to success. And it's also important to have ways to transfer this experience in a way that people can notice dynamics that perhaps they would not have otherwise. Obvious example would be some great engineer is very good at coding shiny apps, but let's say is not really respectful of the people dynamics on a team. But on larger projects, those people dynamics can have more impact than individual skill of the developers there. So, for example, if you want to progress in your level of impact, if you want to become more senior and have more responsibility, it's of course necessary to understand some of the dynamics that might not be obvious from the start if you're just out of university. And those are often things that are more abstract, more long-running, let's say, maybe a little bit more subjective. So it's also good to have some tools to make it more visible, to make it more concrete, to make it more open to discussion in details. So for us, this is a set of career paths and descriptions of key skills. So now you can see a screenshot of one of the levels in our career path, career ladder. That describes one of the levels of impact, and as you can see, there are several cells that describe some sort of impact that we want to have. So on projects, we want the clients to be happy. We want to have good communication. We want to have good quality code. We want to have automated testing, for example. So those are some of the things that lead to good results. And also with some concrete examples. So this is an abstract concept. Okay, we need to take care of automated testing, but what does that mean? Okay, here are links to some concrete examples of what does it mean, what does it look like to have good testing on a project. And also we try to describe explicitly some anti-goals. So how can this area go wrong? So there are predictable pitfalls that many people fall into on their path in their careers. So we want to capture those pitfalls and warn people, oh, but be careful about this. And especially there are some obvious things. So one obvious type of pitfall is just not doing the right thing. But the most interesting anti-goals, I think, are the ones that show surprising dangers. For example, overdoing it, like doing too much of the good thing. Okay, automating this testing is good, and I think if there is a struggle, then there's probably usually it's too little testing, not too much, but sometimes you can also overdo it. So the best anti-goals are those surprising things when you just do too much of the good thing. Okay, and the next slide, please. And the last part I wanted to highlight, which is the crown jewel in our set of practices, I think, is to create opportunities for people to achieve impressive feats. So, for example, entering a contest is such an opportunity. Of course, challenging projects are such an opportunity. But I think it's very important to also have opportunities to create to have a safe to fail environment to do that. So we created for this purpose, we created something we are calling up sprints, which is a mini project under 1 week when one person or a few people work on a fully integrated something, some achievement. It could be building a new dashboard from scratch, or it could be improving an existing dashboard in some specific way, adding automated tests or improving the design or making the performance better or something. So there is a technical goal, and it has to be wrapped up in under 1 week. And I think it's very important to have, when you are learning a lot of things, I think it's important to have opportunities to practice those things in a in a clean setting, like it's not bound by, let's say, real project constraints. And it's short enough to just get it done quickly, learn from it. And even if you fail, that's fine. We have learning. So, but you can also have the opportunity to potentially achieve really interesting things that would not be possible in regular projects, for example. So that's what we are doing at Epsilon. And next slide, please. This is one of the example of one of those up sprints, which is like a super quick dashboard. And we usually try to highlight like one specific, when we are building one of those up sprints, doing one of those up sprints, building something, we want to try to highlight at least one interesting thing about this project. So for example, for this project, the interesting thing was the timeline at the top. So of course, maps, like for us in dashboards, that's like pretty normal. Of course, bar charts and numbers, that's just easy. But this timeline was some interesting thing about how to show a set of events over many years and navigate to the details of each of those events. So this, and then we had a discussion about, okay, how to build this timeline. And then we had a discussion, okay, how might we improve this dashboard even further? And this all happened in just a few days of development, maybe one additional day for feedback and discussion. And we have this nice packaged learning result. And then we can move on to other projects, and teams can reuse some of the patterns in their own real projects and so on. But we probably wouldn't have thought of this timeline view if it wasn't for this up sprint. So being mindful of the time, I think we can go to the summary. So just to summarize, we are using a variety of tools and we are constantly experimenting with new ones, but we think it's important to have some principles behind the tools that we are trying and we are experimenting with, and to explain them explicitly. So those some of those principles for us are to set exciting goals, to look for exciting goals, not just settle for okay, we need automated testing, so here's an automated testing book, go, make it more interesting. To share what you are learning, that to create and teach people and encourage people to share little chunks of learning along the way, and then over time it accumulates to really a lot of energy and knowledge. To show what great looks like, to just not talk only about abstract concepts, but really demonstrate in concrete terms what we are aiming at, and to create opportunities for people to do interesting things in a safe environment. So those up sprints compared to real projects, the main difference is that they're much quicker and quicker turnaround, quicker feedback, quicker learning, but also they are safe. Like even if you fail, that's no problem. If you fail in a project, that could be a problem, but we need to be more safe there. But here we can try more ambitious things. And if it doesn't work, well, there's the next week. And that's all that we wanted to share. So by the way, we are hiring. So if you would like to also take advantage of some of those learning opportunities, we are hiring for R-Shine developers and project managers and some other positions. So if you're interested, reach out to us and we would love to talk.
Wonderfully interesting talk. And now is the time for the audience to ask questions. But before this ask for questions reaches the people on the other end of the stream, I have one from myself. This all the stuff that you talked about, it all takes lots of time, right? How do you manage to secure this time for people?
I can answer. Go ahead.
Would you like to answer, Michał?
Yeah, I can. So this is one of the, so overall, since I'm pretty new, I can still brag that for me, like Epsilon has the best culture that I have ever seen in my whole career. And one of the aspects of this culture is that we are, or the leaders, the board of the company is explicitly investing quite a lot in people's development and the team's well-being. And one of that is that we are aiming, so we are calling it bench time, which is like non-project time that can be invested in talent forge activities or other internal activities. And we are aiming to have that to be 20% of your time. So it's not super strict, but we are aiming to have billability of 80% or 20% bench time, including development activities. So yes, the company is okay if someone is on one project for a long time and they really need a change of pace. It's okay for them to, let's say, take a week and do this up sprint. Of course, we have to manage it and prepare for it in the project, but this is something that we are okay with as a company, to take away one person for a week and do some side project. And this and many other ways, we have a personal development budget that gives people some percentage of their salary to spend on training and so on. We have some additional people to time to attend conferences and workshops and so on. And yeah, so the company is investing quite heavily in development.
Okay, thank you for this answer. Another question. What kind of exciting goals you are setting? You mentioned the goals you mentioned sound more like general to me, but you sounded like you do it for every person. How do you do it? Can you share some examples?
Okay, maybe I can say a few words, but then also I would like to hear Pavel's perspective. So for me, other than we are looking for those high-level goals for everyone, but of course it's hard. And for me, we also work, so as engineering managers, we work with the whole company, for example, in developing Talent Forge, but we also have one-on-ones with our group of people. And for me, definitely there's a big element of personalization. So I try to, within the general stream of development in the direct strategic direction of the company, I try to find and let people find for their own goals that they want to pursue. So it could be different for every person. And then we try to create some common goals, and then within that frame, some individual goals for people.
Yeah, so thanks. Yeah, so I think you captured it well here. So essentially it's, in my eyes, it is about having a goal for an initiative or an activity that happens. So like, for example, for the app sprint, when we have a goal that Michał mentioned, there are several kind of layers or ways in which an app can be optimized or created. And then each one, so for example, to optimize performance or to improve UI or to add maintainability or essentially improve skill in each of these areas. And of course, for people that are working on this, this is something that they should be interested in a little bit, at least for that area, for them to be exciting to develop. And then this opportunity of participating in an app sprint allows them to practice that throughout that period of time. Another way we do that is when we work with individual team members on their development plans and how they will progress in Epsilon in a given 6 months time. So we have essentially performance reviews, and then that are aided with peer performance reviews at the kind of every 6 months. And this mechanism allows us to collect a lot of feedback from team members that are working with us and hear from them, what contributions we did, etc., etc. And every time we do that, there is an opportunity to kind of gather all this information and then prepare for the next 6 months that are ahead of us and set kind of goals for these 6 months for every individual that on one hand, of course, are aligned with the company, where we're going and what we want to achieve. But on the other hand, there is room for personalizing it, like Michał said, for every single person. So this mechanism also allows us to identify these goals. And these can be different things. So for example, someone that is currently in the tech, is currently working mainly as an R-Shiny developer, but wants to be more as a project leader. So they might want to participate, for example, in a number of projects that will allow them to get out of their comfort zones and be like more hands-on project leader in every single project. And every single project will be more complex than the previous one. And if possible, we can set that route when we choose the projects for people to join. And so this, also gets them excited that yes, they can pursue this, their goal. And in addition to, for example, spending their time and budget, the training budget on certifications and courses that will prepare them for this theoretically, we can also have this sort of road prepared for them or arranged for them within the company, so they can learn from other project leaders and then eventually become project leaders themselves.
And I wanted to add one more thing, that there's also an element of adaptation. So it's hard to decide up front, this will be exciting, right? Maybe, but we also can, along the way, we can find what people are excited by and amplify that. So it's sometimes hard to predict, but then we can notice what is already exciting and then do more of it.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you for the answer.
Thanks for the question.
I have another question. I hope you will like it too. How do you measure your North Star metric? You started with the North Star metric. It sounded cool to me, but how do you measure it? If you do.
Short answer, we don't, at least not to the level of discipline that we would like. This is a very hard topic because it's when we drill down into concrete things, it's easy to like forget the big picture. So for example, okay, I lied, maybe we are, but I'm not super satisfied with this board. So the current plan is that our like main indicator, so this is not the definition of success, but an indicator of success is, so I mentioned those career paths and key skills. So the number of level ups and the number of achieving stars, which show the key skills. So the number of stars achieved is, or levels achieved is one indicator. But I'm not super happy with that for various reasons. But this is one metric that is there.
Yeah, I think we also, we had this activity actually of creating OKRs or KPIs in the beginning of work for on Talent Forge, and we found it's very difficult for us to identify the KPIs and OKRs that would speak strictly about the impact that we're making on people, especially in revolutions that are 6 months. It's kind of hard to spot over a short period of time. And so we had a couple of iterations ourselves on these goals, and we ended up with like having an ultimate goal of which is a goal for the entire tech team, so that every contributor of the tech team improves over time and has better contribution to the projects. But we decided that the fact that we don't know right now how to exactly measure that in a way that will give us input, kind of feedback for the process, and will steer the process of teaching, should not block us from from trying to make progress in this area and coming up with the numbers or with the KPIs and OKRs later down the line. And so we still identified the areas and the tools that we believed had most impact or had highest probability of impact, and we implemented those.
And to some extent, I want to add one more thing, that metrics are one thing, but I also like to, I hope that this is my plan intention for the future, that we will just look at examples of what is going on, of the achievements that we did, the results of up sprints and so on. And then we can evaluate using this North Star statement that shows like what aspects are important. Okay, what are the skills? And then list those skills. Was there a change in behavior? Can we demonstrate that before someone didn't do unit tests, now they are doing unit tests? This is a concrete change in behavior. So learning happens. So I also try to analyze it in this way. Just take examples and analyze it using this common lens.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. It was the last question. Actually, we are right on time. In 5 minutes, we'll be starting a next talk. And now I will try to thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mateusz.
The full room, this sounds better.
Thank you. Have a great conference, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, and remember, you can talk with Paweł and Michał in their channel. I'm just posting it to the main _yellow chat. Oh, somebody's clapping on the Slack. Yeah, see?
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Perfect. Thank you, Mateusz.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.